All right. Did you get notices that it's recording?
Yes, indeed.
Cool. All right. Jessica Shiner, Jackie. What is your last name, Jackie?
Rasmus.
Rosmus. Yeah. For some reason, I can only remember your Instagram handle. Welcome to this great conversation, I hope. I anticipate, I'm excited. Talk a little bit about the Portland Horse Project. Um, I started this project back in 2005, and as I've been saying recently, it's totally possible that many people maybe tethered horses or creatures to rings before that. I guess people probably did. But in 2005, I got really excited about an idea, and for many months posted or tethered hundreds of horses around the whole city. And so I sort of do take credit for starting that up and getting the city kind of excited about that over the course of a few years. And it was just really fun watching it grow. And you know, then Instagram came along, and we kind of started a community on Facebook, and they started popping up on Instagram and social media. And so I've kind of been cultivating the Facebook page and really following Instagram and the hashtag Portland Horse Project there. And you two have been like rock stars, participants. I've been super excited, and thanks so much for agreeing to meet up and just chat a little bit about your participation and interest. And it's great to meet you here for the first time. Um, I don't know if I even said my name. I'm Scott Wayne, Indiana. And Jessica, if you could start and maybe just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in the project.
Okay, cool. So my name's Jessica Shiner and I'm a product designer. So that basically means I work doing digital design all day and I have for many years. And so I live in Portland, and during the pandemic and everything, I'd be walking around my neighborhood and starting to notice more and more of the horse rings. And I did when I first moved here in Portland like 9 years ago. But when I was walking around during the pandemic, it was, different energy of passing by people, and then you'd look down and I would laugh or get, it was kind of cool to see that. And then I'm also, as a designer, I look for creative outlets that aren't on the computer to participate in, because I'm on a computer every day. So something creative. And so a couple years ago, I started getting into this thing called the 100-Day Project. And so you pick something and you do it every day for 100 days. So it could be like, I've had coworkers and friends participating along with me, and I've met a lot of people in that community doing it. And so it's like, you could write a poem every day, you could sketch something, you could photograph the same avocado plant that you're growing every day. So I've done a couple of those things. And so as I started to see the horse rings, I started to think to myself, oh, this would be a really cool thing to do for a 100-day project. And then, having some experience doing them in the past, I started to think to myself, when you need to like show up for it every day, you have to have a small amount of planning involved. So I started earlier the year before I started just photographing where I saw rings around the city, knowing that if I needed 100, that's quite a few of them. And so then I started kind of in the photographs, they'd be kind of geotagged. And so I started collecting those and then thinking about what I wanted to do for that. So I didn't do just horses. I did dinosaurs and birds and all sorts of things. Usually found those at like I started collecting plastic animals from the internet, from like eBay, looking for lots of large plastic animals, and and going to Goodwills. And I kind of like the idea of like doing it through thrifting and not just like buying plastic animals. That idea, that little bit of patina or that like vintage plastic animal is kind of more interesting too. So that's how I got into it.
Cool. Yeah, I especially noticed your tethering uh strings, or how would you describe those? They're very
Yeah.
colorful and
Yeah, so I've noticed a lot of them are tethered with wire, and I think that that's awesome because they're like much more permanent. When I started to think about it, I started to think about for a 100-day project, it's kind of like what creativity can you bring to that? So my thought was, okay, so if I'm buying a plastic animal and then like finding the ring, what part of that is creative for me? And so I was like, well, it'd be cool to like do different tethers for them of different materials and stuff. And so I started looking up YouTube videos of like how to make friendship bracelets and tie square knots and do all that. And then so each one, and then I started collecting a bunch of string, and even some of the string I got from like, you know, a consignment shop or different thrift stores. If I saw string there, then I would do like some gold thread I got that I would mix in and stuff. So the sad part is that like a lot of them didn't last as long as some of the wire ones or the zip tie ones and stuff. So that is a little bit sad, but it was really fun just to do like a custom one per one. And I've, you know, met a neighbor that didn't realize that I did them until she saw it on Facebook, and then she was like, "Oh, we brought it inside because it broke, but we're gonna make it a new one or something." So that part of it was cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's so great. I noticed that right away, and I was keyed into your focus on that. I also totally, fully appreciated both of your compositions with all the pictures you post, because I don't know if you've noticed, but it's tough for people to recognize that they should incorporate both the ring and the horse. There's like, I don't know, I would guess at least half the pictures, not to be critical because people are just having fun, but like a lot of times people will leave the ring entirely out. And so for a lot of people, they might see just a horse on a curb and think, well, okay, somebody put a horse on a curb. Um, and so you both clearly got that. Every single one of both of your photos is really nicely composed and incorporates, not like I mentioned, not only the ring and the horse or creature, but some kind of background elements too, oftentimes.
Yeah,
Um,
Jackie, do you find that you avoid places with like cars in the front to like kind of like, and then you get down in the street to take a
For
different angle?
sure. No, totally. I'm always bummed when like the ring I had selected in my brain has a car parked right there, because then you have to either have the car in the picture, or I don't know. I like to stand in the street to take the picture so that the curb is sort of like part of it. You get a good angle. And
Yeah.
it's nice, yeah, to have, if it's, in front of a bar or a business, it's nice to have their sign, just to get some context of where it's at.
For sure.
yeah.
There was this one horse ring in front of my neighbor's house, and I had this like horse picked out for it, but they always park their car out. And then there was like one day I left, and they live only a block away, and I had a different animal that I was going to tether that day, and I saw that their truck was gone, and I like ran back to my house, got the horse, and I was like, today's the day.
I love that.
Nice. That's so cool. Yeah. And so Jackie, why don't we back up and like, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got interested in the beginning and then stuck with it?
Yeah, it's funny when you mention the date that you started it, because in my head I feel like I had seen horses, just growing up, but I think you just, I don't know, your memories are weird and it all gets mixed up. But I do remember seeing the horses around town and thinking that is brilliant. I love miniature things in general, I think are cool. And so the idea of tethering a toy horse to like a piece of history is just cool. And it's just like a cute thing. And usually that whimsical stuff irks me, or I don't know, it's just not my thing. But the horses somehow broke through, and there's like enough interesting stuff about it that like it always caught my eye. Um, and then my last job I had a horse ring in front of it. And so I'd see it and I'd think, oh, I should do that. I wanted to do that thing. And I finally just did. And then I figured I have all this wire. So I just kept doing it. And then they'd get destroyed and I'd keep doing it. And then I was trying to figure out where are all the horse rings? Like, why is there like one on this whole street? Just trying to get a better grip on like I've been trying to map the horse rings actually.
Cool.
But yeah, it was the first ring was at my job, and I was friends with the custodian, and I remember I had to be like, please don't get rid of the horse. I know you like to clean everything up on the property, but leave the horse. And he did. But yeah, since then I quit that job and I was like, I gotta like move my body. I'm supposed to like go on walks and stuff. So hard for me to just go on a walk because I just feel it's so boring to me. Um, so I was like, if I have a destination or sort of a mission to accomplish, it makes me more motivated to go on walks regularly. So I just started either, I'd call it horsing around. I'd be like, I'm going to go horse around, which was either scouting rings to tether to or to actually go out and tether one. So I think like there was a chunk of time where I was horsing around like multiple times a week, and I've definitely slowed down, but I have a box of horses just staring me in the face.
We'll have to
Nice.
share maps because I marked I have
Oh,
some a Google map where I marked where all of them that I found like are at least them. And then there was somebody who started following the project and then her mission was to find them. And on one of them, she added like I think I forget her hand. It was like my Lego child. Like she made a little Lego person that reminds her of her childhood self and she put it next to the horses or things. And I was like, this is amazing. Like that part was like community on community, so it's really fun. Yeah.
That is
I
cool.
like that. Yeah, I like how you would take photos of the rings and sort of notice the geotags. That's a good idea. But yeah, my Google Maps is out of control because I put little labels in, if whenever someone tells me about a ring or if I know about a ring or if I see a picture of a ring and there's some way I can figure out where it is, I'll sort of put it in my little Google Maps and it's has a lot of labels on it.
Yeah, my friend, I mean, she sent me a photo of a double ring, and she sent like the coordinates of where it was and it was in Lads edition, and so it was like yeah, kind of crazy to find. But yeah, then I planned like two animals to like face each other. I had to hitch two.
I've never seen a double ring.
Yeah,
That's amazing. Um, that is one of the most common questions actually is there a map of them? And it would be great to be able to provide a map, but I've always kind of said, it's best to just go find them on your own without a map, and that doesn't mean I don't want a map to exist, but I still sort of feel that way from my personal experience because I just enjoyed so much having that new dimension to my awareness where I was constantly scanning the curbs as I would go through the city for so long, and I was just doing it again last weekend, looking for rings, sure you guys do that too
yeah.
or have done that. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Always.
I mean I try to remember the first time I saw the horse tethered, it is funny memories you're trying to, but it was so years ago when I first moved to Portland, one of my first 100-day projects was 100 days of fantastic. And what I really did is I would photograph a pattern like a building in downtown or a grate or something, and then I would do it side by side. I'd sketch it. I'd try to like duplicate that pattern and then I'd post it side by side. So this is what
Oh,
I saw and then like this is what I did. So I would be waiting for the bus in downtown Portland and then just like staring. There's still this one building. I was down there the other day and I was like, I remember this building because I it was kind of a complicated like pattern to sketch, but when you start looking down at everything and all the like it's just so interesting. The like waterworks covers and things are yeah.
The curb stamps,
Yeah.
all the different dates and the different companies and the
Yeah.
misspellings of streets.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I've never seen that in another city that like the company that did it would like put it in there. And then sometimes you get like a moss growing into those and you're like, oh yeah.
Love moss. My husband actually gave me this excellent gift, and it's a book of Portland curb stamps, like just sort of a book detailing all the different companies and stuff. And he correctly assumed that I would love it.
that's amazing. I want that too.
Yeah.
um just to also circle back to Jackie, you mentioned your memory from childhood thinking you've seen horses, and I back when I started when I started the project, I and it caught on and got a bunch of media for a few years. I talked to hundreds of people who'd lived in Portland their whole lives, and not one person ever said they'd seen one before. It's only been in the last 2 years that people started saying that. And I was talking to my wife about it, and she's into, like, she's a nonfiction writer, and she's read a bunch about books about memory and stories and things, and how something becomes a part of your thinking about a city or an experience, and then you sort of build in this memory. And so whether or not that's happening, or people actually do remember them, I don't know, but I find it interesting that it seems like people would have mentioned that more often back when it started, but I was also really obsessed with street art for a good 5 years before starting it, and I never saw one. And I was looking at every ring all the time. Like, certainly there could have been, horses over the years, but it didn't start popping up that it was earlier than 2005 until just in the last year or so. So that's been kind of
It's
interesting.
definitely something that makes Portland special, right? These horse rings in other cities, not as much. Or I think maybe somebody sent me a photo from Boston or something of one once, but
Yeah, I've seen a few. I saw one in this little town called Fredericksburg. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's west of Austin and San Antonio. It's kind of a touristy little town. And I saw one in Livingston, Montana, and I also saw one in Philadelphia. And so
wow.
they're definitely part of the history of the country and different cities, but Portland is, as far as I know, the only city that's kept them up to that degree, to the degree of having more than just a few in town. In fact, now that I say that, I also saw one in New Jersey too, in a city in New Jersey. So
And it's law. If they replace the curb, they have to keep the little
right.
it's keep it in there. My husband's a civil engineer, so I know, like, pavement laws.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been around. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that one of my favorite rings. Well, I love any replaced ring where it's super obvious that it didn't used to be there because they've changed the street a little bit. And one of my favorite ones is in downtown. I think it's on a Max line. I think it's on Fifth, but it's like kind of just in the middle of this Max platform area where it's just very strange. It's not even near where the road is. And I just love seeing that ring.
That is so
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it's so awesome to have favorites. Like, you kind of feel like you're visiting them when you pass them by. Um, that also reminds me, when I started, I was the first several I did, I just used string, and literally,
I
like,
was gonna ask what you tethered yours with to start off
yeah,
with. Yeah.
it was like cheap white string, and I would go back to them, immediately, and all of them were gone, like, immediately, within hours. And so that's when I started thinking what else I could use, and so I started using the wire, and that worked a lot better. And then I would really keep track of which locations would stay on the longest. And
Yeah,
that
that's
was kind of
interesting.
fun to keep tabs on. And for me, the one that would last the longest was the one next to the right in front of the True Value on Woodstock. And they kind of maintained it. And there would be the same horse in front of that for, like, sometimes I think one lasted a year right there. Um, and so, and I know that other people would also maintain theirs in front of their house, like with their kids and stuff. I've heard stories like that, or other businesses. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, I did one up on Mount Tabor and photographed it and everything. And then a good friend of mine, it was somebody she knew's house or something. They're like, I've been waiting for someone to tie a horse to the horse ring since I bought this house or something. I was like, cool. Yeah.
I
It is
was
a
just
little strange though, like tethering outside of someone's house. I don't know if you both run into it. Then, like, and you're like, are they gonna like this or not? And I remember once this guy in a big truck came in and pulled into his driveway, and I was like, this is awkward because I'm tying this plastic animal. I'm a grown woman, like, outside your house, and then I'm gonna photograph it. And I try to get a little house in the shot. And he came over to talk to me, and he was he was pumped because he had one that got stolen, and he was like, yeah, I like it that it like happens. And part of me's been like, if you really want to steal this, like you want this plastic animal, like part of me was like, great, like you get to have it.
That's amazing. That was kind of one of my questions for you guys, was if you had favorite moments. My dad, when we moved to New York City, my dad would like go out and tether horses. And he really enjoyed doing it, actually. People would come up to him and talk to him, and you know the general experience of that happening was kind of my favorite moments. I don't really even have a specific one. It was just that several times people would come up and be like, what are you doing, and kind of chat about it, and they'd say that's cool or whatever. But in your both of your participation has happened more since it became more of a common thing in the city a little bit, like, or not well, yeah, just a little more popular. So people were probably, I expect people knew what you were doing a little bit more. But I was curious if you had any interesting favorite moments from all the horses and creatures you tethered.
You go first, Jackie.
I definitely fear that I look sketchy sometimes when I'm tethering horses too. Because I think if I were looking out my window and I saw me, I'd be like, what is that girl up to? But I've never had a bad encounter. I think I had like a pretty wholesome encounter at the beginning of the pandemic, like weeks in, and we were tethering a horse, and then the lady in the park blocks across the street was like, she had two daughters with her, and she was like, "Are you putting a horse there?" And they started walking out to me, and I was like, "Oh, is this your house?" And they're like, "Well, it's our neighbor's house," but they had like the kids weren't aware of the horse rings. So I was like, oh yeah, people used to tie horses up right in front of where your house is, and the kids seemed pretty interested, and the mom was thankful that the kids had something else to do during the pandemic. But I think it is such a wholesome thing. I think all of my encounters have been positive ones.
That's cool. I'm glad to hear that. Like, one of the things that struck me, like I said, I was really into street art, especially when I started this. And one of the funny things I don't know that anybody knows really is I was experimenting with putting art on the streets in dozens of ways for months before I did the horses. And so I was doing all sorts of things, and a lot of it would range. I never really like did any vandalism or anything like that. It was more like placing objects around town and seeing how people would interact with them, and different things like that. And the point of sharing this is that when this caught on, and it resonated with people, from kids up to, to be blunt, like elderly people, like, and everyone in between, it was like, oh wow, I don't know that I could like do that again with any other street art project. Like, I've thought about it a lot over the years, and it would have to be a similar sort of thing, right? Like some kind of object that gets placed around in some way that was connected to some part of the infrastructure of the city, or I don't know. Obviously there's probably countless other ways that could happen, but that age range specifically, and like the fact that everyone in the city, it's not that everyone loves it, because I'm sure there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of people who don't like it, but in terms of the fact that it does resonate across that age range, I think is really cool. It's probably one of my favorite things about the project.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, one of my favorite moments, yeah, it is the animals, and sometimes the photographs surprise you, and you're like, this looks really cool, but it's mostly like talking to the people that was surprised. I never anticipated that the talking to people would be like part of it, but like in my neighborhood, I was tying up a horse, and a woman was walking by, and so we started talking. She's like, oh, I live right, she lives like 3 streets away from me, and so we started talking about like life and her grandkids and all this, and she was gonna have and I'm forgetting if it was like hip surgery or knee surgery or something. And I was like, oh, and then we started talking about that. And then I was like, do you need any help for anything? Like, can I drop something by? Like, we're neighbors, you know, a few blocks away. And she's like, I am all set, but thank you so much for offering. And then we'd see each other, like, you know, I didn't see her for a little bit because she was recovering from the surgery. And then I saw her walking around some more, and then we'd wave. And then a couple of months later, and I asked her how her surgery went. And then she told me that the scary part was they had found cancer when they did it, but it was able to be removed. And we had this really deep conversation that was very surprising. And then I saw her another couple more weeks later, and I was like, I just got diagnosed with cancer. And like we started to like just talk a little bit about that, and had a short conversation about that. And then it was either the next day or a few days after that, there was just like a little package of like 2 tarts and a note that she left on it that said like, if you need anything, like, I'm here. I forget what she said, but she said, you have some work to put into this, but let me know if you need any help. And it was really touching.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, when were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in March of last year. And so I went through 9 months of treatment. And so now I'm cancer free.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That's, oh man.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um, holy smokes.
Sorry for that. Now it's turned into my therapy session here. No, it's
No,
but it was really
no.
touching. It was just like surprising. And you know what? The horrible thing to admit is I think her name is, I don't remember if her name's Lynn, but you know, like we live in the neighborhood, and now it's like this acknowledgement of like of kind of this neighborliness, which I think the pandemic kind of gave to us in a surprising way anyway. Like in our, you know, in neighborhoods, you started to know people and you're out in your yard more often and things like that. And I grew up on the East Coast, and the like Portland people, like at the grocery store, in your yard, everybody is like so kind. And it's, I think it's something that makes the city really special.
Yeah, yeah, but your original interaction was around the horse. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
And then you were able to make that.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Well,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're cancer free. God, I didn't
Thank
know
you.
that. So
Thank you.
yeah, of course. That does remind me though of another story. I was also just at my uncle's funeral yesterday, and so like I'm sort of in this weird headspace, but that does remind me, I have gotten like just, as I don't know, you might imagine, but like dozens of notes, you know, but one of them really stood out. It was this woman who was shortly after the project kind of got a little bit popular, and she said that a friend had just passed away, and she was walking home and it was raining, and she was like super depressed, and like she came upon a horse, and it like changed her whole, you know, mood and gave her a little spark of hope. And I was like, oh my God, like, you know, like,
Yeah.
okay, like I think it can end now, and it's already a successful thing, you know, like that's every time one of those stories comes in, that's kind of how I feel. And I'm kind of like shaking and getting goosebumps now just talking about this stuff. But because it really is meaningful for me. And to be honest, you know, with you guys, it's the main reason I never did anything that would like appear to be cashing in on it, on the project. I've only recently thought of doing this book, and then some of these other like mugs and things to kind of go along with that. I mean, I have done that for the last couple years, but definitely for the first 10 years and more, so many people would suggest that I start doing that, and I'd be like, no, it's not about that, you know. And the only reason I'm doing it now is because there's so much love for Portland, and it's such a, I really believe in the city, and I want it to come back, and I kind of want to you know, strengthen the project. And I feel like some of these things are going to help it to grow and stick around after I'm gone. So, and I also kind of feel like, if you know, there's a lot of things that have popped up that I haven't had a hand in, like the beer brand from Bridgeport that was the Tiny Horse Pilsner, and a handful of things like that. you know, if things are like that are going to exist, I'd like to maybe kind of design some of the things and be the one who puts them into the world. Um,
Yeah. I
and
think
maybe,
what Jackie said was like, it's like this little bit of like did you say it was whimsical? Like this like thing that like I think as adults we learn to stop playing with things as much, or we learn that things have to be like perfect when we're creating them, but there's something about this like a childhood eye to things that can and their approach to things that can be so much more playful and carefree or have these other things. And there's something, yeah, whimsical about seeing like a childhood toy or something that you don't only imagine like one use for it would be like galloping around or being put in a stable or something like that. And then it's like kind of out in the world, or there's just something really interesting. It was like toward the end, I was like, I think I've made some like, I'm not a very good sewer, but I've made some things with felt because felt is very forgiving. And so I was like, I have some felt laying around. Maybe I'll not only tie this animal, but I'll like cut it a little crown or like these things that you're just like, why aren't we playing? We have the materials just laying around our houses that could like, or wire for you, Jackie, that you can like kind of just start playing with, or, but we don't do that as adults, I don't think anymore as enough.
yeah,
That
go
that
ahead.
makes me think of another interaction I had that was kind of strange, but I had just gone to a thrift store and got a major horse haul, just a bunch of cool horses. And then I went to like McDonald's to get something to eat. And while I was eating in my car, I was setting up the horses on my dashboard so I could take a picture of my haul. And so I was just sort of like trying to place them for the picture, and then and it was must have been a hot day because my window was down. And then all of a sudden I hear this guy go, "You like playing with horses?" And I was horrified. And I noticed like, oh, there's two guys eating, like two spaces down from me, and they think I'm playing with toy horses. But it was pretty cute.
That's so funny. Yeah, um, this stuff that it reminds me actually of as an artist, I was like constantly kind of trying to figure out what it is I'm interested in. If I was going to start synthesizing things, when I went back to grad school at NYU in like 2010, 2011, and that's when it really, after many months of thinking about it, I was like, play is at the center of what I'm going to focus on. And it was totally rooted in the horse project. And so, Jessica, when you mentioned that about play and, Jackie and how we forget about playing as adults. And I was obsessed with this for a long time. And as I was like, my thesis for this graduate was Playground Society, and it was basically giving play missions for adults to post pictures to, and it's kind of what became hashtagging mission type things in Instagram or other social media sites. But and even now with my own kids, it's so much easier to be playing when you have kids because you're getting down on the floor and playing with kids and stuff. But I can sit here and talk about play for hours because yeah, I totally like decided that was what I wanted to focus on as an artist, was bringing more play into the world.
Isn't it funny we like hold on to childhood toys sometimes, but then they just sit in boxes and don't get played with or things like that? I always like one of my other 100-day projects was 100 days of mementos. And what I did was I photographed like childhood mementos and then tried to write down a story for it. All the stories with memory, right? It's like not in a chest, you're rebuilding it to do a little storytelling around it. But it's like, I started to think about why do I have all these things just sitting in a box for someone that they won't even know the significance of them if they got passed down or if something happened to me. Like, so just like that idea of like these things that are precious and we hold on to it, they're like they didn't want that, or one time they were not precious, they were like thrown in the mud and cut up and like all these other
Right.
things.
Yeah, there's that line between nostalgia and true play objects. Like that's one of the things I love about the Toy Hall of Fame is one of their first objects was the stick. And another one brought in was the cardboard box, you know, and there's like the joke with toy designers that oftentimes kids are more interested in playing with the box that the toys come in than the actual toys. And yeah, it's, you can pick up any object and turn it into a toy. I love that about play and toy design. I don't want to hold you guys here too long. I'm not lying when I'm super excited to continue talking with you. I could talk for hours. I wanted to share my screen and mention that this is just did I send you guys the cover of this at all?
I don't think so.
So this is a little
No.
sneak
Cool.
peek at the cover of the upcoming Horse Project book. This is an InDesign file. And when I was searching for covers, I went through, as you'd imagine, hundreds of photos. And this one that I landed on was one of the first photos taken that I know of. And it was one of my former students from when I taught high school who loved the project from the beginning and went out and photographed a bunch. And so I reached out to him and asked him if it'd be cool for the cover. And he was like, absolutely, of course. And it just works really well. A lot of the other ones that I looked at worked really great too, but for a variety of reasons, I kind of landed on this one. And
It has a nice silhouette. Did you guys discover like animals have a good side too, or like can give you like different expressions, or like you photograph like, oh my gosh, that's not the expression I thought that this plastic animal once you like got down on the curb and took a photo of it.
Yeah,
a
there's
good-
like
good-
the dreaded horse that doesn't actually stand up, and you know, as soon as you set it down, it keels over. But that one, yeah, this cover one is nice. It's very elegant.
yeah, I was just going to scroll through a couple of the first pages here. This is just like the beginning, and then I've got like a little intro, which I still need to edit, but this Oregonian piece from 1971 that kind of talks about the history of them a little bit. And then I dive into just some photos, and I'm going to incorporate some of the quotes from this conversation onto the pages next to your photos. And then I also have a version of this where the photos are side by side and kind of playing with each other. And so I'm going to go back to having some of those layouts. And then I'm also going to reach out to every one of these people and, of course, let them know I've credited them and give them a time frame that they can let me know if they don't want me to include theirs, that I'll pull it. But it's been really fun putting this together. There have been so many to choose from, and I kind of have yours grouped together.
I want to see some of Jackie's. I haven't seen some yet.
Oh yeah. That was the other thing I was going to pull up, was it with your permission. I mean, I can go back and edit it out, but I also have your Instagram feeds that I could pull up, and we could kind of talk through some of them if you want to. This was another one I was considering for the cover. It was a close second. I really like the scale of that one and the gold color and the kind of quality of the background color. I was assuming you would both appreciate that as well.
I do like the background on that one.
Yeah, there's just so many really classic ones that immediately resonate for a variety of reasons. Like this is one of the best ones I've ever seen, with that loop, that motion of that loop, and you know, that jumped out at me right away. I've often tried to do that too. This is probably the best Halloween one. I keep trying to get people to do a headless horseman one every year, and I need to just do it myself, but it's such a no-brainer that that should exist somewhere, a photo.
One of the one horses I did buy was like a horse that had like wings to it, and then like I found a sidewalk where I could get like the shadow of it, and that was my Halloween post one. But it
Oh,
was like
nice.
I was like all the other ones where it was like grass and stuff, and I found one like a bunch of like sidewalks so you could like see this like. And I was so angry at it that day though. The harness really didn't work out. Often the secret is I'm often swearing at these animals as I hit them because they're falling over.
um yeah, I might go back and kind of reorder
Oh
some
my
of these,
gosh, those just did not stand up.
especially after we chat. These wouldn't stand.
No, they're just those little tiny, then
Yeah,
like there's four of them, and like then they would domino down, and I was like,
right. Oh, here, I think let's see. That one was snow. Um, Up here's the first one of Jackie's. I think the grid kind of shows that you did all those, and then I think these are kind of grouped together, and these are yours. So many just classic shots that you've put together.
love them. Oh,
This
that's
one,
cool.
this one, the few people I've shown the prototype to are like, what is that?
Those shrubs are
Oh my
amazing.
God, I just saw the show.
Yeah, it's so funny. I love that one. I have to keep that in there.
God.
Oh, that's the Max Stop one, that
This
black
one.
horse.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's
That's
like
cool.
facing the road, but there's this little platform thing for the Max.
Yeah.
Very cool.
You can
Such
see
a
I
strong
I
horse.
took screenshots of these for the book, and it included the little next on the Instagram thing. A couple people have said they think that that's kind of cool actually for the book. But I was thinking I might go back in and kind of kind of edit those out. I have these two. Oh, I have a weird background on, so you can't see I've actually got two prototypes in paper, and
That's cool.
it does kind of, I was curious what you thought of that, of leaving that in there, that Instagram UI piece versus not.
As a digital designer, I would say it's either on all of them or none of them. That's what
Yeah,
my rule of thumb would be.
that makes sense. That's what somebody else said too, who's also a designer. Um, and I'm a designer as well. So that was kind of my sense as I looked through the book. Jackie, do you have an opinion of whether it should stay in or not?
I think it's a little distracting, but I don't have strong feelings about it.
Yeah, it definitely screams like it's a digital medium if you see it in a book, and it's kind of weird maybe. Um, I don't want to just fly past all your photos, but I wanted to look at some of yours too, Jessica. There's some of the braided string.
Started getting into tassels later on and like doing like a breast tassel on some of them. This one had really cool hair that it was just like had a lot of attitude.
Nice.
This one, and then I started getting into leg warmers. Mm.
See what I
I
did?
love the
Though?
friendship bracelets.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's such a great I hadn't realized that, I hadn't made that connection that that was the.
Yeah, I'm really good at making. I had to remind myself of like my like 10-year-old, 9-year-old self of how to do this.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this one was like late at night, and I like needed to post one. I pretty religiously post every single day, and so I had like went out late at night, and the sky was clear, and then I brought a flashlight to like light this donkey.
Nice.
I also brought my 3-year-old son, who promptly sat on a rock and then fell into the street and then came home crying. My husband's like, "What did you do?" And I was like, "I was just trying to get a photo." That's a jacket. I feel like that could be a fun thing too, is to like to do fashion, or like somebody said I talked to when they saw me hitching one. They're like that, one horse appears and then somebody else adds like a fence around it, and then someone else adds like an outfit to it. It's like that idea of community is cool too.
Yeah. No, I love that idea.
I've
Um,
got the closest ring to my house. Somebody sort of like takes care of whatever horse gets put there, and they will put like a Fourth of July ribbon on it or like a little hat on it. They'll sort of decorate it for the holidays.
that's
That's
so
cute.
cool. Yeah. I love that. Um, I don't know how comfortable, before I share your Instagram feeds, I was going to ask if you were comfortable with that or not. I guess
Oh yeah.
if we're
Yep.
not going to post to YouTube, then I guess it doesn't matter, but so I'll look at the this was the kind of outline I was thinking about, and then
Yeah,
Jackie.
I started posting mine, and then people were like, "Oh, I didn't realize you were posting the animals." So then I had to post the rules that had to do with mine. I was like, "Buy the plastic animals, make the
Yeah.
harness, hitch it, or something," because people thought they were just found in different places.
Yeah, I was looking at that again today to pull this up, and I really liked that you had a few kind of text posts interspersed with things like that. Yeah, when you first started doing this and this popped up, the 100 days, I was like, oh, amazing. This is gonna be so cool. I was like totally there for it, from the very beginning. And
You can see I also take pictures of moss and shells, and I call it like micro textures of things.
yeah,
This looking down thing, right? Once you start looking down at things, it's interesting.
right. Yeah, stop me here on any of these if you want to tell a story. So
Oh,
this pink bird was one of my faves for sure. It's in the book. I put all the creatures that aren't horses um after the horses.
yeah.
So and when I
There
scrolled,
were some, like I said, I learned like keywords on eBay if I was gonna buy, use like large plastic animals, because I got some small ones like that little white zebra, which was just like, oh my gosh, that thing was so creepy, but I still posted it. Up there is that, if you go up, scroll up one more row, that's the Halloween black horse, and you
ah,
can kind of see that shadow. It's supposed to be like a bat shadow.
oh yeah, the shadow. That's so cool.
And then
That
up
is
there,
so cool.
Yeah.
and then up another row, there's this dark, or this brown horse, and behind it is this amazing blackberry Portland house. And I don't know, her hair was giving me so much attitude. I was like, I feel like her name is Rosie. There wasn't any other animal that I like gave a name to, but I was just like, she was just, and it had like these really cool red berries. There was just something about the color palette on that one, which like just everything came together. And that was just like a random one I found in like downtown Montevilla.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean,
And sometimes I'd go back. And then the other one was like, it was such a rainy day and I had this duck and I wasn't sure I was going to use it. But then I found a puddle and then that
yes,
happened.
yes, that is so good.
Yo, it was really, it was so much work to do. And then I used like large animals. Oh, yeah, this brown horse on the right, that's the one that was in front of my neighbor's house. You can barely see the house actually, with the edit, because that horse had a good side and I had to capture it. But then I started using the small animals that I had bought or like couldn't use, but they're really cool vintage animals. And so then I would put it in like the T Rex's mouth or something, like,
Oh,
because I had all these animals laying around.
yeah.
Yeah. And my sometimes my kids would go with me, sometimes they wouldn't. And yeah, I try to check back up on them. I don't know if you guys probably did that too, or like kind of walk by and see if they're still there. Most of them weren't. Like that fox here, there's originally a bear, and I thought the fox and the bear would go good together, but by the time I went back, the bear was gone. I did do the sheep and the ram together. Came back for that one. The camel was actually mailed to me, but from a friend from Massachusetts who wanted
Huh,
to like help out. So she's like, I have this random camel. Do you want it? And I said, yes, I do.
nice.
Yeah, I wish I could have gotten the red dinosaurs outside Miyamoto in downtown Montevilla. I wish I could have gotten it, but they had all this like, and then a couple of weeks later, I went there and my friends were eating outside, and I was like, my dinosaur's right here, and they like didn't even notice it had like fallen over. So,
And
yeah, that creepy lion is still there. It looks like kind of a theater lion, like it has makeup on or something, but it's like apparently nobody wanted to bring it home. It's
uh,
still there.
And this cowboy is such a great photo too. On the, even though,
I bought that one at a used, like at a consignment shop, kids consignment shop, and I held on to it, and I was like, oh, I don't know where I'm gonna put, like, this seems like a special one because I got a rider for it. And then this one was up near on Mount Tabor near, what is it, Coqueen is up there, but it just had a really nice kind of the background to it. Just everything came together that rainy day.
yeah, the rainy streets are often really nice, nice sheen, like shiny kind of.
Yeah, the 100-day project usually starts in March. But then I started just scouting locations and I knew I wasn't there yet until later. And it actually worked out to do it during the rainy season because then I got really lush textures to accompany it, which was like a plus. And then there was like the day it snowed or the few days it snowed, and I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna dig up a ring for these. So I had to go to familiar spots that were close by, and because you don't want to disturb the snow so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad you did those though. Those are such cool photos.
Thanks. Yeah, and then the three monkeys were, again, that one was mailed from a coworker in Boston. So it was really cool to have other people. And there's the
Oh
two
yeah.
bears that are fighting. So, and the more that other people were participating, like that double ring where the panda bear and the black bear, it was just
Ah,
like that became like, yeah, just somebody else scouting out rings and stuff was a big help just to get into a different neighborhood and get a different background. And
yeah, where did
yeah,
you say that one is?
that one's in Ladd's edition.
Okay. I always get lost when I go in
Oh, for sure. 100%.
there.
Yeah.
And then I love your lessons learned post here. Take more photos. Yep, take another photo. That's so true. Like you always think you've taken enough, and then the last one you take turns out to be the good one.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. You think that one's a throwaway one, and or that
right.
this animal isn't interesting at all, and then it ends up being like one of your favorites.
Yeah, it's weird the way that works. Yeah, and it took me a while too to really get down on my knees and really get the upward angle sometimes, but still capture the ring um
Yeah,
and then the smaller hands. Yeah, interesting with the ropes.
I really do.
Cool. Any other final thoughts on these? Or I really appreciate everything you just shared. That was awesome.
No, no, this is fun to look back on it.
Cool. Jackie, I was looking at yours. You have a little more other posts kind of interspersed. It's harder to
Yes. Yeah.
scroll,
I
so I
love the
don't.
cat material, though. I'll take it.
Yes, yeah,
Thank
totally.
you.
Um, this is the one you were saying is your favorite one?
Yeah, that Max stop I think is really interesting. And I don't do much on the west side, but I do like that one.
Yeah. And I noticed your Enchanted Forest pick too. I grew up going there. It's one of my favorite places on planet Earth.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I love it there.
That horse is like looking straight at the camera and then has that like swerve around of the wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to find a good starting place. I think if I just keep kind of going down here, then
Yeah. I can
oh,
tell these are Dollar Tree horses. That
I was
those are
gonna
your
say, where do
blue
you
gray
find these
ones.
horses? Yeah.
I usually I do a lot of thrifting, and so now I have an excuse to go down the toy aisle. I try not to spend more than $2 or $3 per horse, but
yeah,
sometimes you see something extra special, like something with the wagon, or like I love it if it has like a saddle or anything attached to it. I get excited.
That one with the greenery in the background, that's cool too.
that's awesome.
Oh, that's my favorite little hole in the wall. I like to put little stuff in there.
Uh, you're both my people.
Oh,
Yes.
there's someone in my neighborhood that this along a tree, they put like a little red wooden door and a bed. Like it's just
Love it.
And then you have a lot of vans too. I also collect Instagram photos of vans. I
Nice.
van life. I'm obsessed a little bit. A
Yeah,
little less
we're
the
in
last.
a van club.
Are you?
There's a couple van clubs in Portland, but yeah,
Nice.
we don't do much.
Yeah, just enjoy them.
Yeah, well, we get together and like drink beers and talk about stuff we should do to the vans.
Yeah, cool. Um, just
Also,
amazing.
even that little blanket on a horse is fun to me.
Yeah.
Okay,
where
yeah,
did
and
you find
that's
this horse?
I don't know, but Sixth and Harrison is like where that I think that is one of the original ring that sparked it for me was
Hmm.
near my old job. Um, but I sometimes if I have an appointment somewhere weird in town, I'll look at my map and think, oh, is there any horse rings around there? Maybe I could do a horse while I'm in North Portland or whatever. Sometimes I'll just make a little add-on to my trip.
That's cool. I just wanted to see if there was a couple, one or two more up above where I was. So cool. Such a great framing right there. It's so good.
Feels almost like
That's
Wes Anderson, like balanced in the way that it
Yes.
has that shape and
Yeah,
like,
I would second that. Along, you got the nice graffiti piece or kind of mural piece in the background, plus the table, plus the neon and the window and the moss. It's just so well done. And then, Jackie, on a lot of years, you've got multiple ones, and it's easy to kind of skip over those when you're just scrolling.
oh yeah, okay, that one's that slingshot and it did not last long. I think
Oh,
sometimes people run them over too if it gets knocked into the streets.
yeah, I've noticed that. Oh, these are the
yeah.
up to your recent ones here, I guess.
I've tried to rescue a few afterward because I don't want to make street trash, so I'll like kind of pick it out of the street or bring it home or I'll put it back on my shelf if it's injured.
Yeah, or sometimes you'll see evidence of a past horse, like it just has the wire attached to the ring, or sometimes just a horse head attached to the ring. Do you guys ever see that where like the body
Yeah.
has been popped off and you have this like horse head?
Love
And
a little
this one
mask
got
one.
reposted a bunch on when during pandemic, right? With the mask.
Yes, yes, some local news was interested in that. And that one doesn't even have a ring, it's just a nub.
Yeah.
Sad.
But that was at the height of pandemic times, if I
Yeah,
recall.
totally.
Everyone was very sorry if I'm oh, I like the skateboard one too.
Okay, that was my favorite horsing. I was because it's right outside of this skate shop in my neighborhood
Oh,
called the
really?
Smart Collective. Um, and you can even see a little wire attached to that ring. It was probably a
Ah,
previous dead horse.
yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh man, I've got to figure out how to do a skateboarding horse. And then I found one of those at a garage sale and found an appropriate sized horse. I
That's
don't think it lasted long.
so
It
cool.
doesn't even last long with the wire. I'm surprised. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, you just come back to a wire.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know what people are thinking. Like it's not
I
worth
was
it.
blaming it on my cotton strings, but maybe it's just people are interested. Yeah.
And then, we laughed about this a few minutes ago, but is this is the whoever keeps this building up, like, is it a joke? It must be, right?
There's no way that's an accident, right?
I
I
think it
don't
might
think
even be
so.
on Portlandia. I'm not sure. I think they might have used that in framing of some shots.
So many dogs.
Yeah.
My husband's legs are in quite a few of my
I've
photos,
noticed that.
but
Yeah, I've seen
I that
them.
is one thing where now I try to shoo him out of the frame at least.
Cool. Um, this is the hashtag, and then you're both aware of this couple that met because of the horse project, right?
No.
So
What?
back in the early days of Flickr, Flickr, the site.
Hmm.
So this was like 2008. They were both street photographers, like hobbyists, and they both posted a photo of a horse on a ring with a tag, and it was the same horse. And so they messaged each other, and then they got together for a drink, and then they ended up getting engaged and got married.
Wow.
And they had horses as the theme to their wedding, and so that was something.
That's sweet.
Bringing people together.
Yeah, right. That again, like I was saying earlier, like that was another one of those moments of like, okay, I guess something kind of cosmic about this thing was in the works.
So a couple of months ago, I had a person from a design agency in London reach out to me about using one of my photos in like a British Airways campaign because they
Oh,
like
cool.
wanted to do like London horses, Portland horses, or something just for like a social media like Snapchat campaign
Yeah,
or something like that. It took a little bit to decode my husband and be like, are they real? Is this a real thing? But it was like, yeah, it's just become such a quirky personality part of Portland that it's becoming recognizable. It's cool.
right. And you were both aware of the beer, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw that.
I love
Yes,
the I
yeah.
love the color palettes. Look at your little like yellow horse, and it's like the like I love it. And like if you're it's like just that like that gold of the like kind of the dead grass, and then that, and then you're bringing in the brown hues. Like all these color palettes are just really cool to see.
Yeah. Yeah, this was just the hashtag, and so it was like the top posts and stuff. Oh, this lady was I went to Saturday Market with my 4-year-old daughter, and she had this egg art. And so I was
Wow,
like, have you ever considered doing a Portland horse project one? And she's like, no, but I'll do it. So she did one.
cool!
Yeah, it's so funny.
I love it.
Um, I I love popping in on the hashtag and seeing what's there. I don't know if I had anything else to sort of look at. I don't think I did. But we've gone over an hour. I was like, maybe we'll have interesting stuff to talk about for 20 minutes, but uh I don't want to force it. And I told my wife, I was like, if it's just a good conversation, I'm just gonna keep going. And so like I'm not exaggerating. I could sit here and talk a lot longer with you guys, with both of you. I know we have very like minds, similar interests and stuff, but thank you so much for taking the time out of your evenings. And it's just a pleasure to chat with you. And I really do value and love all this stuff you've been doing. And thanks so much for sharing.
Cool. Thanks so much. It was so great to talk with fellow toy nerds and art nerds and like I love every part of this and I feel like I've made a couple friends too. And so Jackie, I'm now gonna stalk you on the internet, no, on Instagram, and it's really cool to see all this come to life. And like I said, the community part of it is just it's the conversations with people and then the community, those are the things that really have stuck with me, and now will continue. I've even seen them again. I'm like, my 100 days are over, but should I do this again? And I want to show
Yeah, it
Max,
was,
Jackie.
I know that's what I'm thinking too. I'm gonna find you. Yeah, it was nice meeting both of you guys, and yeah, thanks for starting the project because I have fun with it.
Yeah, thank you. There will be some events around the book coming out, and so I'll email you if you don't already see info on that. I'd love to meet you both in person, maybe grab lunch or get drinks or something at some point. If you'd like some of these stickers, I'd love to send each of you like 10 or 20 of them in the mail. If you want those, I'm happy to pop those in the mail in the next week. If you want to email me your address, and I guess that's about it. But yeah, a beginning of getting to know you. Love to connect again. And again, just thanks so much. This is the first kind of conversation like this that I've had around the project that wasn't, some other kind of weird press conversation that I felt pressure and stuff. So it was really fun to just chat about it, especially with the two of you who have such wonderful, genuinely, I mean, maybe it sounds cheesy, but just kind of heartfelt firsthand experience with really getting and engaging. I feel like there aren't a lot of people who have that experience to the degree that like the three of us have done. And so it's kind of cool to just to chat with you for a while. So thank you.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah.